Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive deep into something pretty amazing. Today, it's all about Taiwan's hot springs, but we're going way beyond just a quick dip. We're going to soak in the history, the culture, maybe even pick up some tips if we're ever lucky enough to visit these places ourselves.
I think what always gets me is how Taiwan's hot springs aren't just about relaxation. They're like a perfect blend of nature, ancient traditions, and modern wellness. It's a story that goes back centuries, from those early indigenous practices to the Japanese influence and everything in between, all the way to how we see hot springs in Taiwan now.
I've always been fascinated by cultures that are really connected to nature. It's like the land itself is offering a way to heal and feel good. So where do we even begin with hot springs in Taiwan?
Well, you kind of have to picture the island itself first. Think about lush mountains, those dramatic landscapes, and all that volcanic activity happening underground. That's the geology behind it all, how these hot springs naturally happen.
Wow, yeah. It's crazy how those powerful forces of nature can create something so peaceful and good for you. So, who were the first people to discover and use these hot springs?
Way before any modern resorts existed, it was Taiwan's indigenous communities who truly understood the healing power of these waters. For them, hot springs weren't a luxury. They were a vital part of their lives and spirituality. They believed in their healing powers. They used them for everything from easing pain to just feeling more energetic.
That connection to the land and its resources is amazing. So how did those traditions turn into the hot spring culture we see in Taiwan today?
There's a really important shift that happened during the Japanese colonial period, back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Japanese brought their own tradition of communal bathing onsen with them. They really emphasized ritual, cleanliness, and respecting nature. They recognized how special Taiwan's hot springs were and started developing resorts, often incorporating design and etiquette practices inspired by their own onsen traditions.
So the Japanese influence wasn't just about the physical spaces, it was about the whole culture surrounding hot spring use, too.
Exactly. You can still see Japanese designs in some bathhouses, especially in places like Beitou, which we'll talk about more later, but it goes deeper than that. The emphasis on being quiet and contemplative, being super clean, and being mindful while soaking those are all things from Japanese onsen culture that still influence hot spring etiquette in Taiwan today.
It's so interesting how all these different cultural influences come together over time. Before we get into specific locations and what makes them special, I'm curious about the different types of hot springs in Taiwan. How are they different, and how do those differences affect their health benefits?
That's a great question. It all comes down to the minerals in the water. So deep underground, as the water heats up, it picks up all these different minerals from the surrounding rocks and soil. And those minerals are what give each hot spring its unique character and its specific healing properties.
So it's not just hot water, it's like soaking in a natural mineral cocktail, almost like a spa treatment straight from the earth.
Exactly. And Taiwan has an amazing variety of hot spring types. You've got sulfuric hot springs, alkaline springs, even mud hot springs. Each one has its own special benefits.
Okay, you've definitely got me hooked. I'm ready for that virtual tour of Taiwan's most famous hot spring destinations. Let's hear what makes each place stand out, from the water itself to the whole cultural experience. Where should we start?
Let's begin in Beitou. It's a district just a short trip from the busy city of Taipei. Beitou is famous for its sulfuric hot springs. You'll know them by their smell. A lot of people say it smells like rotten eggs.
Okay, that's definitely a unique smell. But I've heard that sulfur is actually great for your skin. Is that true?
You're right. Even though the smell isn't for everyone, sulfur has some amazing qualities. It's antibacterial and anti-inflammatory, so it can help with skin problems like eczema, acne, and even psoriasis. Lots of people say that soaking in a sulfur hot spring makes their skin feel softer and clearer.
So maybe a little bit of a stinky smell is worth it if it means healthier skin. What else makes Beitou so special, besides the water?
Beitou has this cool mix of history and modern stuff. You can see really well-preserved bathhouses from the Japanese colonial period, like the Beitou Hot Spring Museum. It's a beautiful building that tells the history of hot springs in the area. But if you're looking for something more modern, Beitou has tons of hotels and resorts. There's the Millennium Hot Spring, which is open to the public and known for its traditional baths. Or you can go high-end and stay at the Grandview Resort for a private soaking experience with amazing views.
I can picture it now, walking through those historical streets, taking in the atmosphere, and then ending the day with a relaxing hot spring bath. What if someone wants a more cultural experience, a place where they can really connect with the indigenous roots of Taiwan's hot springs? Where would you recommend?
In that case, you got to go to Wulai. It's in the mountains south of Taipei. Imagine beautiful forests, waterfalls, and the Nanchi River flowing through it all. Wulai is the home of the Atayal indigenous people, and their connection to nature is everywhere, especially in their hot springs.
I love that. It's not just about the place itself, it's about the culture that makes it special. What's unique about the Atayal culture in hot springs?
For the Atayal people, hot springs are a gift from the gods, a place for healing and spiritual renewal. They have their own special rituals and ways of bathing, often using traditional herbs and plants. In Wulai, you can even find hot spring pools with Atayal weaving patterns, a reminder of their deep connection to the water.
That's a beautiful detail. It's like soaking in a piece of history. Are there any specific hot spring spots in Wulai that you'd recommend?
For sure. Wulai has a range of options, from simple public baths to fancy resorts. If you want something truly special, I'd recommend checking out either the Pozlandis Resort or the Volando Urai Spring Spa and Resort. Both have incredible riverside views, and they incorporate Atayal culture into their designs and amenities. Oh, and one key difference from Beitou, the hot springs in Wulai are clear and don't have that sulfur smell. They're still full of minerals, but much gentler on your skin.
It's incredible how each place offers such a different experience, from the water itself to the whole cultural setting. I'm already feeling more relaxed just thinking about it. Where to next on our hot spring adventure?
Let's head north to Yilan County to a town called Jiaoxi. Jiaoxi is famous for its alkaline hot springs. They're known for their smooth texture, almost like liquid silk.
Liquid silk. Now that's a description that makes me want to jump right in. What makes alkaline hot springs so different, and what are their benefits?
So unlike sulfuric springs, which are slightly acidic, alkaline springs are more basic. That means they have a higher pH. This makes them really gentle on the skin. They can even help balance your skin's natural pH and leave it feeling super soft and hydrated. Alkaline springs are also known for helping with sore muscles and just generally making you feel relaxed.
So if you want a hot spring experience that's like a spa day for your skin, Jiaoxi is the place to be. What about the town itself? What kind of hot spring experiences can people find there?
Yaxi is a really charming town, perfect for a relaxing getaway. One of the things I love about it is that there are options for everyone. You can find anything from luxury resorts to budget-friendly spots. They even have free public foot-soaking pools all over town.
Free foot soaks. I'm there. That's an amazing way to try the hot springs. Any other fun or unique things about Jiaoxi?
Here's a fun fact. Some restaurants in Jiaoxi actually cook their eggs in the hot spring water. They say it gives the eggs a really unique flavor and texture.
You're kidding. That's amazing. It shows how much the hot springs are a part of daily life there. I'm picturing myself walking around Jiaoxi, soaking my feet, and then trying one of those hot spring eggs. It sounds like the perfect mix of relaxation and local culture.
It really is. And if you're looking for something a bit fancier, Jiaoxi has some really great hotels like the Evergreen Resort Hotel and Wellspring by Silks. They have private hot spring tubs, spa treatments, and even food cooked with the hot spring water.
Okay, we've explored sulfur springs, clear springs, now alkaline springs. It seems like Taiwan really does have a hot spring for every taste. But earlier you mentioned something that piqued my curiosity. Mud hot springs.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
You're right. Mud hot springs are super rare, not just in Taiwan, but all over the world. And Taiwan is home to the only mud hot springs on the island. They're in a town called Guanziling.
This is where our deep dive gets a little messy. I love it. What exactly are mud hot springs, and what makes them so special?
Imagine a hot spring where the water mixes with this fine clay full of minerals, and it creates a thick mud. People believe this mud is amazing for detoxifying your body. People come from all over to try these mud baths. They say it makes their skin feel incredibly soft and fresh.
Wow, it sounds like a natural spa treatment you can't find anywhere else. If someone wants to try this mud bath, where should they go in Guanziling?
There are two places that stand out: the King's Garden Villa and the Tengmao Spa Resort. They both offer mud bath experiences, and often you can get other spa treatments and amenities too.
Okay, I have to admit, the idea of a warm, mineral-rich mud bath is really tempting. It seems like Taiwan's hot springs aren't just about relaxation, they're about connecting with nature in a really unique way. But we've been so focused on all the different locations that I almost forgot to ask, what are the actual health benefits of hot springs?
That's a great point. Besides all the specific benefits from the different minerals, soaking in hot springs is just good for you, both physically and mentally. Let's talk about the science behind it.
I'm all ears. I've always heard hot springs are good for your blood flow and help relax your muscles, but I'd love to understand how that actually works.
So when you get into hot water, the heat makes your blood vessels get wider. It's called dilation. This makes your blood flow better, which is great for your circulation. It's like giving your heart and blood vessels a little boost, helping them deliver oxygen and nutrients to your muscles and organs more effectively.
So it's not just about feeling warm. There's a real change happening inside your body.
Exactly. And better blood flow helps with a lot of things. It can ease muscle tension and pain, which is why hot springs are often good for people with things like arthritis or chronic pain. The heat from the water can also reduce inflammation, which helps with pain relief too.
It's like a natural painkiller and muscle relaxer. Now I'm starting to see why people love hot springs so much. But we've talked a lot about the physical benefits. What about the mental and emotional effects? I imagine hot springs are great for stress relief.
You're absolutely right. Soaking in a hot spring, especially when you're surrounded by nature, can really calm you down. It's like a big hug for your mind and body.
I love that analogy. It's that feeling of warmth and comfort.
Ah,
Is there a scientific reason why hot springs make us feel so relaxed?
there is. Studies show that hot springs can lower your cortisol levels. Cortisol is the hormone your body makes when you're stressed. Less cortisol means less anxiety, better sleep, and feeling happier overall.
So it's not just escaping stress. It's actually changing your body's chemistry to help you relax. I'm starting to see why people have thought hot springs were healing for so long.
It shows just how powerful nature is. It reminds us that simple things, like being in warm water with minerals, can have a huge effect on our health and happiness.
Well said. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of Taiwan's hot springs.
Definitely, there's so much more to explore. Next, we'll talk about the etiquette involved in using hot springs, so you'll be prepared to enjoy the experience in a respectful way.
I'm excited to learn about all the customs and traditions. It sounds like a cultural experience and a wellness journey all in one. So stick around as we keep diving into the world of Taiwanese hot springs.
Welcome back to our exploration of hot springs in Taiwan.
I'm really excited to get into the etiquette part of things. It's one thing to be excited about the hot springs themselves, but I know there are certain customs and practices that are really important to understand and respect, especially in places like these.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hot spring etiquette is all about making sure everyone has a safe, hygienic, and enjoyable experience. It's about showing respect for the culture, the environment, and the people around you.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in communal bathing spaces.
Mm.
So where should we start with hot spring etiquette? What are the most important things for visitors to know?
Well, the first thing, and this is really important, is showering before you get into the hot spring. This is something people do everywhere in the world where hot springs are popular, and it's for a good reason. You don't want to bring any dirt, sweat, lotions, or anything like that into the water that everyone's sharing.
It's like a basic sign of respect, right?
Yeah,
Both for the place and the people you're sharing it with. I can see why that would be a rule everyone follows.
exactly. Keeping things clean is super important. And while we're talking about shared spaces, we should also mention noise levels. A lot of hot springs, especially those inspired by Japanese onsen, have a really quiet, almost meditative atmosphere.
So it's not the place to be loud and splash around.
Right. It's more about soaking in the peacefulness of the environment, really relaxing and letting go of stress. Keeping conversations quiet and not making a lot of noise shows respect for the people around you who are also trying to enjoy the peaceful experience.
It's like a library, but for relaxation. A quiet place where you can get away from the noise and craziness of everyday life. I like that idea.
Speaking of respect, let's talk about dress codes because this is something that can be different depending on which hot spring you're going to. Some require swimsuits, while others might have different customs.
I've heard that in some traditional bathhouses, especially the ones that are separated by gender, people bathe without any clothes. Is that something visitors should be prepared for?
Yeah, that's right. In some places, being nude is part of the tradition, often coming from the Japanese onsen culture. It's about connecting with the water in a natural way. But the key thing is to do your research beforehand and check the specific rules of the hot spring you're planning to visit so you know what to expect and avoid any awkward moments.
So, when in doubt, ask about the dress code. Better to be safe than sorry. What about towels? Are there any special rules about towels that we should know?
Definitely. One rule you'll see a lot is don't dip your towel into the hot spring water. It's considered unhygienic because it could spread germs or other things into the water.
That makes sense. So no soggy towels in the hot spring. What do people usually do with their towels while they're soaking?
You can usually just leave your towel on the side of the pool, or if it's a smaller towel, some people put it on their head while they're soaking.
Okay, good to know. So we've covered showering, noise levels, dress codes, and towels. What about things we should avoid doing in the hot spring? Any big no-nos?
One thing that's important to remember is to not stay in the water for too long. I know it might be tempting to soak for hours because it feels so good, but it's actually not the best thing for you.
Really? I would have thought longer was better. Why is that?
Well, if you soak for too long, it can dehydrate you, make you feel dizzy, or even faint. A good rule of thumb is to soak for about 10 to 15 minutes at a time. You can always get out for a bit, have some water, and then go back in for another soak.
So even when it comes to relaxation, it's good to be mindful and not overdo it. It's a good reminder to listen to your body. Now, we've talked a lot about the etiquette, but I'm also curious about the practical side of things. We've heard about all these amazing hot spring spots, but I imagine the experience can be very different depending on your budget. What are some of the options for people who want to try Taiwan's hot springs, from the most affordable to the most luxurious?
Taiwan really is a hot spring paradise. There are so many options to choose from no matter what your budget is. Let's start with the most affordable choices. For people who want to experience hot springs without spending a lot of money, public bathhouses are a great option.
I love that. It makes these natural resources available to everyone. What's the atmosphere like in a typical public bathhouse?
Public bathhouses are usually pretty simple and down to earth. They often have big pools where people can soak together. It's a fun way to meet locals and see the authentic side of hot spring culture in Taiwan. And like we talked about before, some towns even have free foot soaking areas, like in Jiaoxi, where you can just relax and enjoy the water without having to pay anything.
Free foot soaks. Can't beat that. Okay, so what about for people who want a little more privacy but still don't want to spend a fortune? What are their options?
A lot of hotels and resorts offer private hot spring rooms or suites. These usually come with your own hot spring tub, so you can enjoy the experience in a more private setting.
That sounds like a nice balance between privacy and luxury. And I bet the views from some of those private hot spring rooms are amazing.
You're right. A lot of them have balconies or patios overlooking mountains or gardens. Some even have outdoor hot spring tubs so you can really feel like you're surrounded by nature.
Okay, you're making me want to book a trip right now. So we've talked about the budget-friendly options and the mid-range options. What about for people who are ready to splurge and have the ultimate hot spring experience?
Well, if you're looking for the best of the best, Taiwan's luxury spa resorts are incredible. They often have multiple pools with different temperatures and minerals, so you can pick the experience you want.
It's like a hot spring buffet, trying out a different spring every day.
Exactly. And it's not just about the pools. Luxury spa resorts are all about wellness, and they often use practices from traditional Chinese medicine and holistic healing.
So it's like a whole-body approach to well-being, where the hot springs are just one part of the experience.
Yes, exactly. These resorts usually have amazing spas with treatments like massages, facials, body wraps, aromatherapy, you name it. And the food is usually incredible too, with fresh local ingredients, often prepared in special ways using the hot spring water.
Wow, it sounds like a total escape from reality, a chance to recharge and feel completely renewed.
It really is. And what's so cool about Taiwan is that you can find all these different options, from simple public baths to those ultra-luxurious resorts, all within a relatively small area. It shows how much they value and want to preserve their hot spring culture.
You've definitely convinced me that experiencing Taiwan's hot springs should be on everyone's travel list. But aside from all the physical and mental benefits, the relaxation, there's something else about these places that I find really appealing. It's that sense of history, that deep connection to the land and its traditions that you just don't find everywhere.
You know, I totally agree. That's what sets Taiwan's hot springs apart. It's not just about soaking in water, it's about immersing yourself in a culture that's honored and respected these natural wonders for centuries.
It's about appreciating the past and embracing the present, finding healing and well-being in a way that connects us to something bigger than ourselves. I'm ready to dig even deeper into that historical side of things, to learn more about the stories and traditions that have shaped Taiwan's hot spring culture over time.
Well, that's a perfect transition to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the history of Taiwan's hot springs, from their indigenous roots to the present day.
I can't wait to uncover all those hidden gems of history and culture. Stay with us as we continue our journey into the heart of Taiwanese hot springs. Okay, so we've talked about all the different kinds of hot springs in Taiwan. We've learned about why they're good for you, and we even got a lesson in hot spring etiquette. But now I'm really curious about the history of these places. It seems like they're much more than just a modern trend.
You're right. Hot springs have been a part of Taiwan's history and culture for a really long time. For centuries, they've been a place for healing, for rituals, for communities to gather.
Let's go back in time. Who were the first people to realize how special these hot springs were?
Long before there were any fancy resorts or bathhouses, Taiwan's indigenous communities were the ones who really understood and cared for these natural wonders. Hot springs weren't just a place to relax for them, they were sacred places with deep spiritual meaning.
I can imagine those first encounters with the hot springs must have been pretty amazing. What role did they play in indigenous cultures?
Well, they believed that hot springs were gifts from the gods, places where the earth's energy could help them heal and renew themselves. They used the hot springs to treat illnesses, soothe sore muscles, and just feel better overall. It was a way of thinking about health and wellness that connected their bodies, their spirits, and the natural world around them.
It's amazing how those ancient practices and that connection to nature still feel relevant today. How did those traditions change as Taiwan's history went on?
A really big shift happened during the Japanese colonial period, which was from the late 1800s to the mid 1900s. The Japanese had their own tradition of communal bathing called onsen, and it was all about ritual, cleanliness, and respecting nature. They saw how incredible Taiwan's hot springs were, and they started to develop them into resorts, often using ideas from their own onsen traditions.
So the Japanese influence had a big impact on how we see hot spring culture in Taiwan today.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of the bathhouses, especially in places like Beitou, still have the same kind of architecture from that time period. You know, the wooden buildings, the open-air baths, those beautiful gardens, it all feels very Japanese.
It's like experiencing a piece of history while still enjoying something modern. It's such a cool mix of cultures. What happened after the Japanese colonial period ended? How did Taiwan's hot spring culture keep developing?
Well, as Taiwan's economy grew, so did tourism. Hot springs became a huge attraction, drawing people from all over Taiwan and even other countries. And this led to a whole range of different hot spring experiences being developed, from those simple public bathhouses to the super luxurious resorts we have now.
So the focus changed from just practical uses to more about leisure and tourism.
Exactly. And as more and more people discovered how good hot springs could make you feel, the idea of wellness tourism really took off. People started going to specific hot springs for their healing properties, for their skin, for muscle pain, for stress relief, or just to get away from the craziness of everyday life.
It's really cool how Taiwan has managed to keep those old traditions alive while also becoming a modern wellness destination. It just goes to show how powerful nature can be and how it can heal and rejuvenate us.
Yeah, it's true. It reminds us that wellness is a journey, not a destination. It's about finding those things, those places, those practices that help us reconnect with ourselves and with nature.
That's a great way to put it. As we wrap up our deep dive into Taiwan's hot springs, I'm amazed by how many different experiences there are to be had, from the sulfur springs of Beitou to the mud baths of Guanziling, from those indigenous rituals in Wulai to the Japanese-inspired onsen. There's something for everyone.
And it's not just about soaking in the water. It's about connecting with history, with culture, with that healing power of nature. It's about finding peace, feeling refreshed, and just feeling good in a really deep way.
I think you've captured it perfectly. It's a journey that feeds your body, your mind, and your spirit. To our listeners, if you ever get the chance to visit Taiwan, I highly recommend checking out one of these incredible hot springs. Just imagine yourself there, surrounded by all that natural beauty, sinking into that warm, mineral-rich water, and experiencing something that's been part of their culture for centuries. It's truly special.
Maybe you'll even find your own little piece of wellness paradise. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.